The highest good is like water. Water gives life to 10,000 things and does not strive. It flows in places, man rejects, and so is like the Tao. So, what does Lao Tse tries to tell us here? Obviously, he's got a message. He's saying, learn from the water. If you want to be not only high good, but the highest good, be like water. He's saying, what, you want to be highest? Learn from water. So what does he want us to learn from water? He wants us to learn that water gives life to 10,000 things, yet it does not strive. So what he's telling us, what you should learn from the water is to be able to give life, which might mean give of yourself, support, make things grow, create, be initiate things, be the starting point of things, give strength. And yet, at the same time, when you give of yourself for things to be born or to continue to live, do not strive. So he's saying you should be neutral. He's saying you should combine the dual ability of giving of yourself without being involved in what you give. Give without wanting to get a return. Now, that is a very strange thing, to give without wanting to get a return. Because usually we give because we want a return. Why should we give if we do not want to get a return? And why to give without a return? Because that is the way you are. You are a flow. You are something that gushes out of you. You can't help it. So you give life not because you want to give life. You give life because the creative living things in you are so much in a flux. You can't contain them. You are part of the flow of the generative aspect of life. So what people do with it, you don't know. What happens to it, you don't know. You are just alive like water. It's not involved. The water doesn't care if it goes to the sewer or it goes to a thirsty person.
Yes.
It just flows. That's the nature of water. So if the water is true to the nature of itself, it will give life. But it doesn't give life because it wants to give life. It doesn't want anything. So he's saying we shouldn't want anything. We should just be our nature. We should be what moves us. We should be what goes against us, through us. And then we would give life to 10,000 things. Which might mean that if you want to give life, the wanting stops the flow. If you don't want anything, then there is a flow. But how can you come to the point where you don't want anything?
Just being.
Well, you say just being, and it sounds very nice, but when you come to people and say, don't want anything, say, yeah, you are a vegetable, you are a zombie. I mean,
Yes.
if people who watch this say to themselves, what do I want? Oh my God, I want so much, I can't stop counting, I want people to love me, and I want to be successful, and I want to be thin, and I want to have a beautiful body, and I want to have sex with half of the world. And God help us, people are full of wants. And the more you have wants, the less you are in a flow. And the less you are becoming an agent can get things flow. And then it comes to funny sentence. It flows in places men reject, and so is the Tao. So now he's going to the second stage. He's saying not only it doesn't mind where it goes, it can even go to places men reject.
Yes.
It doesn't mind what comes out of it. It can go to the lowest places, which means if you are in the highest good of yourself and you are part of the flow of creation, people can misuse what is coming through you. And yet, you shouldn't care. So to be in the highest good is on one hand not to care if people get life because of what's coming out of you. And also not to care if people use it as a bad thing. You don't mind anything. You just are. You are just a flow. So he's saying the wish of a person who goes in the way of the Tao is to be a flow and not to mind what happens to it. To want nothing, just to be part of the flow of creation.
I think...
And so is the Tao, which means the water is actually a symbol of the Tao. The Tao is a state of the universe, a state the human being can be in, which is to be without being, to be without wanting, to flow without having a desire, to be uninvolved in what happens to you, to be like a leaf on flowing water, to be and not to be. This is how he prescribes us to be. And if we do, we can give life, but we can also go to undesirable places, not us, what is moving through us.
Yes. I think what is astonishing about this is when you compare it to the Western definition of goodness.
To do good.
To do good things, to do good deeds, Hebrew Bible there's 613 things, 30 things that you must do in order to be called a just man or a good man, and saying you don't have to do anything.
And he's saying don't do, but be a dynamic. That's what he's saying, because the water are flowing. And he's saying, if you are part of the flow of life, if your life is something which is powerful, which is moving through you, then you don't need to do anything. The flow will do it. Don't be involved. Don't do it, let it be done. Don't do it, let it be done. Again, we are coming here to the feminine aspect.
Yes.
To be a portal of creation, not an active agent. We are too much lacking in being masculine, wanting to cause, wanting to do, wanting to fertilize. We should give up our wants and let something stronger than us move through us and do the good things.
Yes.
And he's saying something interesting, he's saying, if you do, you can't be responsible to what happens.
You need to trust the universe to operate through you, and this will be goodness. You can't put it into words.
No, I don't think that he's saying you can trust the universe. He's saying you can't guarantee anything. If there is force of creation coming here, it could be misused. If something is giving life, it can also give death. If something could be food, it can also be poison. The only way you can make sure that it won't do harm is blocking it altogether. Difficult.
Yes.
Difficult. He is preaching indifference. Indifference without being a vegetable, because it's not a big deal to be indifferent and be a vegetable. Every vegetable, every zombie is indifferent. Be full of life and be indifferent. That is what he is saying. And this is so different. To be moved by something powerful and not to take a side. Not to take a stand. Alright. And after he's saying, be like water, be at flow and be indifferent, he's actually coming to explain how it's going to be done. He's saying the way you are part of the flow and not involved in the application of it is by living in duality. Do one thing and go immediately to the opposite. And by each plus giving a minus, and by each minus you give a plus, you create a negation within yourself. You negate yourself. So the plus equals the minus and you come to neutral. So if the minus of you is equalized by the plus of you, you must end in a neutral.
Yes.
Like if you say, I want to be rich. At the same time, there should be another voice saying to you, I want to have what I just need to have in order to exist. And you should have these two voices equal each other. And when you do, you are free from both. And you are indifferent. So let's see what he's telling us. This is not so easy to see the polarity here, but he's actually giving us the prescription how not to strive, how to cancel the part of you which wants to be dominant. So he's talking about dwelling, which is an excellent thing for spiritual people to dwell and to be with things. Saying, in dwelling, be close to the land. So if you feel that you are drifting too much in something, think about the land. Think about something which is concrete. So you go one way, immediately you stop yourself by another way. So he's actually prescribing a person to live in constant contradiction.
Yes.
In order for him to be like water, to be in a flow and to be indifferent. Because when you are neither each side and you are in the empty middle, something more powerful than you can flow through you. We should strive to be visuals of the powers of creation and empty of ourselves, empty of our polarity, empty of our desires. The second thing is saying, in meditation, which is a mental thing, you concentrate on one thing with your mind. And he's saying in meditation, go deep in the heart. So he's saying the moment you become too mental, equalize it with feeling. Unless you equalize feeling with mentality and mentality with feeling, you will strive, you will be pulled by one pole. And the free-flowing man all the time lives in the balance. What I feel, what I think about what I feel. I think something. Does it feel right? What does the heart say? We are dichotomic culture, separating between polarities. This is, by the way, how you make an atomic bomb.
Yes.
You separate the polarity between plus and minus and you get a terrible explosion. So he's saying, you get a minus, stick to the plus. You go to the mentality, what does the heart say? I mean, if you go to universities, there's no heart there. It's all mind, it's all mentality. You go to churches, it's all heart. What do you understand about the prayer? What does it mean to you? Don't know, I'm just praying. I'm just heart. You go to art, too much heart. Come to the artist, what do you want to say? Well, I don't know, I would let people to interpret. Artist for me is a person that should have a combination. You've got heart, excellent, but what are you trying to say? One doesn't cancel the other, it will free you from both. In dealing with others, be gentle and kind. Dealing with others hardens you. Children are soft, they're becoming hard. Human dealings is hard. Everyone has got an interest. everyone wants to do a trick on the other person to get what he has. And after a while, you don't trust anyone because you met so many people that meet you only to get what you have and to leave you with nothing. People have nice gestures with mean intentions, and it's naive to think to live in a nice world. People learn to play tricks with each other and to have basically selfish interests when it comes to each other. So there's two options to people in human dealing during life. Either you become a hard, callous warrior which wants to get advantage from people, or you break. And he's saying in dealing with people, be gentle and kind. He's saying, I know it's a jungle, I know it's tough, I know people are coming to trick you, and I know they're going to hurt you, but you should be with it, gentle and kind. Your tendency is not to be kind, because they're not kind to you, be kind. They're hard with you, be gentle. So again we have this polarity. See, I think that everyone wants something. See, we identify our identity with what we want. What is life for you? The accomplishment of what you want. You ask a person, how do you want to be in 5 years? I want this and this and this and this and this. What about just living? Just living? You mean just waking up, eating, and going to sleep? Life is to get something out of it. Life for me is fulfilling what I want. What do you want? And he's saying here you should want something. You should be happy living, just being. Because by just being, you're attended by the forces of nature and creation. And it will move you. It will do its thing. And you are just a very happy hotel owner. Okay. Happy to see the guests coming in and out. Because when you have this energy coming in, you get something out of it. Your empire gets benefited out of it. It's actually upgrading your system. It's refining it. You see things from a higher standpoint. It's a great honor to be a pipeline for the forces of creation when you are not full of you. And the only way you will know that you are full of you is by having your wish and your wants and your desires ruling you and making you unneutral.
Suppose there are two people. I will try to put it in a question. There are two people. One has strong desires, strong feelings, strong needs and wants and
aspirations.
And there is another person who wants nothing. But it's not because he worked on himself, because this is his character. He's just what it is. And this person is more holy from birth?
No. What you're describing at the moment is one person which is definitely, we don't want this model. The person is full of wants, full of desires, full of aspirations, very masculine. He's going to screw life, yes, in the bad sense of the word, and to get something out of it, and also other people. The different character is not what we're talking about, the neutral person who doesn't mind. Okay. This is a person that has been defeated by life. Okay. He is the ultimate classical victim that wants nothing because the people with desires got his wants from him to them.
I understand.
He's conquered.
He is being conquered, yes? And there is many people which have no desires because they met the wrong kind of people. They met people that actually squeezed out of them their desires, and they are empty inside. Very sorrow thing. And most people are either victims horrible desire pots. And there's meeting point between both. Those who've got desires getting stronger because they get the energy from those who've got less strong desires, leaving the ones with less strong desires empty and defeated. We are talking here of a very narrow line between both, where you don't fall to any side. You're not defeated, and you are not ruled by your desires. You live within an inner space. You want nothing but to be filled with the power of life. This is for you to be alive. In speech, be true. See, so often I do work with you and I'm saying to you, how was your day? You say it was a little bit difficult. And I say, what do you mean little? Was it difficult? Was it not difficult? Now, for you to say it was difficult is difficult because you want to say it was little difficult because it will make you less feel an emotional dissonance about the fact that you've got a difficult life. So we all the time trying to paint, to color, to put in things which are not nice. We are prisoners of our own self-image. We all the time want to have good self-image. It's totally stupid because if you have a good self-image, it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change your mind. But you say, well, at least I feel good with myself. This reminds me what I do in my workshop, body language workshop. I show a person coming to the mirror. As he comes to the mirror, he stretches, he puts his stomach in, his head high, he looks younger, and when he leaves the mirror, he goes back to the same floppy, fatty person he was before. But what, he doesn't see it anymore. So we are subject of our need to have good self-image. That's why we lie to ourselves all the time. And we lie to each other, trying to present the picture to be better. In speech, to be true is a very, very high demand. Because you need to go against all the emotional dissonances which are living in you. And you know how often I catch you in all kinds of figures of speech that you say things to me which are not, it's not a lie. By the way, half a lie is worse than a lie. Because you think you're telling the truth. So you're moving away off the track, not knowing that you're not on the track anymore. So, speech be true. Yeah. So where's the contradiction here? I want things to be smooth and nice, and I want to tell a lie to keep it smooth and nice. No, you should want things to be smooth and nice and tell the truth. See, to come to me, and instead of saying it was a little bit difficult, to say it was horrible, you need to exercise self-control to say these things. Because what you want to say, it was a little bit difficult. Yeah. If you speak the truth, you create a tension between the polarities. You're holding the two horses, not letting one win. You all the time balance with truth your wish not to experience emotional dissonance. Are you with me?
Yes. Completely.
In ruling be just. There is this saying, you should probably know, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I want to say another, is that new sentence?
Yes.
The other saying is this: if you give to someone power, most of the chances that he will use it in the wrong way. In other words, to get power over other people. The worst thing you can do is give the power to rule to anyone, because if the person is not developed to the level that he is not becoming power hungry, power thirsty, power drunk, seeing other people obey to him, and he can squeeze their richness away from them. If he is on that, unless he is on that level, most chances that the power that he has to rule, he would use it to get advantage over other people. You need to be a very high person indeed to be a just ruler. Now, we are not talking here to be only a ruler of empires and kingdoms.
Yes.
You can have a dog. You are the ruler of the dog. Are you a just ruler? You have children. Are you a just ruler? Are you able not to misuse other people which are under your power? Very difficult. Very difficult. And in order to be just when you've got some power, doesn't matter how much power you have, you need to go against your ego wish to use the power for your own advantage. And the moment you're not using the power for your own advantage, you are equalizing your desire, your wish for power, you come into the neutral vector. And you do one more step, so the flow of life will flow through you. Which I want to remind you, you're not responsible which direction it is going. You will just say, thank God. Because you see, to be alive is nothing. Unless you are alive with the forces of life moving through you, you're not really alive, you're existing. So people exist, and they become subject to their own desires. Thus, they don't experience life. Because to experience life, you need to feel the energy of life move you like electricity in a wire. That's to be alive. But if you give up to your desires, if you strive, if you let one pole take over, you get blocked and you do not experience what is to be alive. Once you experience the great power of life, it doesn't work for you wanting this to overpower this. It is such an incredible energetic phenomena. You don't want to drink anymore, you don't want to take LSD, you don't want to take marijuana, you forget about orgasms. Life, as it moves through you, is the greatest orgasm. And it's the greatest drug experience there is.
I think it's wonderful what this experience that you're saying, because it's continuous, it's not a peak experience, it's something that exists through your life all the time. And I must say that I think it's not to take it for granted that you're not saying that to be free from the ego is to kill the ego, but it's to give counter power to the ego.
That's what Lao Tse is saying.
Yeah, and I think this is revolutionary. I think most spiritual passages talk about extinguishing the ego.
Yeah, the deterioration of religion basically is when it's saying. I mean, I was sent a speech of the Dalai Lama, and he's saying, well, there's a lot of power in the world, people should not destroy each other, this is not good, you should have communication. So he's saying, don't do that, do that. So, is that saying the same? No, he's saying, have these things in you, but equalize it by the opposite. Don't negate one thing, because the Dalai Lama and the religion is saying, do good. He's saying, no. You should maintain the pole in you which is desirable, but equalize it. Don't cancel your desires. Don't cancel your ego. Keep it, but equalize it with the other pole. Now the other thing is, in daily life, be competent. What I can say about this, that if meeting people makes you either a victim or hard, when you meet life, daily life, not life, daily life, doing shopping, working, all the rest of it, you feel very not competent. And you feel he's stronger than me, he's wiser than me, she's nicer than me, and we're all the time comparing ourselves to people who are better than us. This is one of the great victims, the great problems, that after a while say, I'll never be good. All the time there will be someone better than me. And he's saying, all right, be competent. Others will be better than you. All the time you'll be a failure in something. Do one thing that you are good at. Be competent. If you manage to be a good cook, if you manage to be competent in washing the floor, you manage to equalize all the parts of you, which is saying I'm a failure in this, failure in that. So you're saying be a failure, it's alright, but just be competent in one good thing. We think we shouldn't be failures. It's alright. Be a failure, but be competent. Have one thing that you really do good. This will give you self-respect. In action, be aware of the time and the season. Now, people identify with what they do. You can't go and say, hello, who are you? I'm a lawyer. Did I ask you what you do? I ask you, who are you? What are you? I'm a carpenter. I'm not interested to know what you do. So people identify with what they do. I mean, the worst nightmare for a father is having a kid growing up not having anything to do. Because in this life, what you do is who you are, which is a great shame. Because doing is the escape route from being. If you can't be, you do. And if you do, that hides the fact that you don't really have someone with a real identity inside. So it's not saying again, don't do. But it's saying in actions, be aware. So the polarity here is to do and to be aware. You put your hand to take a cup, take the cup. But be aware of the time and the season. What is around it? Is it the right time? Is it the right approach? Be aware of the context around your action. Don't get lost in what you do. Always have an open frame of mind to include in it what surrounds what you do. Don't get lost in what you do. Do and keep part of it aware of what surrounds what you do.
So if I understand you, it's also, you say that the normal shape of people is they were totally centered in themselves and they are detached from what is going on.
I'm not saying centered in themselves. This is a different issue.
Okay.
Swallowed in what they do. They forget themselves. Their mind go blank and they so much want to succeed in what they do because everything in this life is judged by how successful you are in what you do. This is a mechanical, practical, technical life. Not a dynamic life, not a content life, but a mechanical life. And it's all about doing. And people absorb themselves totally in doing because they are judged by what they do. Not by what they are. Not the way they are, but by what they do. We are a factory. We became factories. We all need to have produce. We're all hard workers. Need to do.
There is another interesting thing that I was thinking while you were saying, is that if the meaning comes from the context of things, then if you don't look what is the season and the thing outside you, and you don't understand the context, you live a meaningless life.
Why is that?
Because all you care about is what you do, and you don't care, and you don't see the bigger picture.
You attribute what you're doing to yourself and not to the...
No, but I understand what he's saying differently, that the meaning of something is not in the thing itself, but actually in the environment and the context in which it exists. And if you lose sight of the space around what you do, then what you do has got no meaning. I like that. So this is the last sentence in the advices that he gives. It could be looked at as very superficial advices, be good, but he's not saying that. He's saying have a war in you. Equalize one part with another so you can come to the negation, which allows the flow of life, so you can be like water which doesn't mind where it goes. And so the first part is to do with water, the second part is to do with advisors, the third part is one small sentence, which is a direct outcome of the second part. No fight, no blame. He is saying, hang on. He's saying you shouldn't fight. You should come to the point when you give up. Now, the giving up, the not fighting, is by fighting what fights in you. The moment we want something, the moment we are masculine and we're going to get something out of life, we need to fight that with the opposite. The moment you fight the fight with a fight, you have no fight. That's what he is saying. He's not saying be a zombie, give up. He's saying you have things in you which you want, equalize them. Have an inner friction. Go against you. Block the masculine in you with the equal part of something opposite. And come to the point that you don't want anything. And then you have no fight. So the way to come to peace of no fight is by fighting what is a warrior in you. The parts of you that wants to go to war, you should fight them.
Yes.
You should not conquer them, you should equalize them. And by fighting what is dominant in you, you can have no fight. And if you have no fight, you have no blame. And the no blame thing is a very interesting thing, because we all the time feel that we are at blame. Every one of us lives all our life feeling that we are blamed for something. And you see, religions exploit that.
They feed from that.
Yes, they exploit it. They actually take the part that each one feels that in himself he is not honest, and you know, all the things he's doing, that he is not gentle,
yes.
That he is not just, that he is not true, that he is not competent. And everyone is going with a big sack of guilt. All of us are guilty. In society, yes, you're a dirty sinner, and you are bad, and all the rest of it. And you should be good children of God, so he would love you. And he's saying, listen, all this blame thing is only because you give up to your desires. And you are one polarity towards life. You too much want to get things out of life. You're too masculine. You should become neutral. And the moment you neutralize in you what is dominant in you, you have no fight. And the moment you have no fight, you don't blame yourself. And then at last you're free.
This is like having a cold war inside you, like the war.
It's not a cold war. It's not a cold war. A cold war in the sense that one nation negates another nation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they don't fight each other, and then there is no blame.
So you say, this is very realistic. You're saying, listen, we're not in heaven here. We're not in the nirvana. This is a terrible place here. And the only way you can come to peace is through war. But an inner war. A war between you and you. If you want to have inner peace, go to war against the ego.
It's a beautiful sentence.
Right! So this has been cracked.